Hello, everybody, and welcome to another basing techniques episode. This one's a little bit of a potpourri. I'm going to try a few different things. Might even try some blood effects too. It depends on how quickly it goes with our vellum foliage. Now we've got a few of these here. These are from Wicked Elf, and obviously, clearly tended to be some nifty jungle foliage. I just want to see what happens with these because remember we tried this vellum plant right here, and that was kind of successful. We've found different ways of working with those, so we're definitely going to try those guys. Now we also have, I don't think I'll be using the Woodland Scenics foliage on the rest of these because I've got the other army painting series coming up, and let's just save that for them. But we are going to use some, here we go, some of our Woodland Scenics blended turf poof right there. So we're going to use some of that. And I think I might try to also combine, we got from Green Stuff World right here. So some of the tall foliage. You've seen me use this a few times. So we'll try and combine some of these things. Now, here's our Wicked Elf over here. And there he is. Greg the man himself. And oh, look, here's some of the brand new foliage that we're going to try out. And here's obviously some of his tests with it that he's done himself. So we're going to try these a few different times. We're also going to use from Luke's APS a couple of different supplies here. Now, one of those is going to be this stuff. You've seen me try it before on the Lizard Man team, I think. I just thought because of how, see, some of that kind of matches our vellum foliage. This would be more just to say augmented or support. Like, see this one piece right here? Look at this one. And I'll pull up. See that one right there? That is a really good candidate. In fact, while we're talking about it here, I'm just going to see if I can't snip this thing off. Get that sitting over there. I just, sometimes when you see those things, and I actually remembered a tweezers this time. Yeah, so we'll see how this goes along with our other foliage. I think that might actually be, one enhances the, oh, what would you say, the realism of the other, or how you can convince somebody that that looks a little bit more real. We got our a couple other tools here, just the push pin, because we're going to use this to stick into our cork here. Nice soft bulletin board cork, and what we do is we just kind of shove the pin in here, and that basically creates a nice area, little thing for us to hold our foliage onto. So it's kind of the same thing here. And yeah, all of these are basically on bulletin board cork at this point. So I think we can do like this here, real good candidate for that flock. So we're going to do some of that there. I just had to wait for all these guys to dry. Well, first get them painted, then wait for them all to dry. So we're going to get some of our other foliage off to the side here. But our next task when we come back is to try and slap some paint on this foliage here. We're going to see just how easy it is to remove. What I might actually do is cut some of the sheets here and pull away some of the backing. I think that might not be a bad idea. So we're going to give that a shot, and we'll see what happens next. Now my goal is to keep the painting of this as simple as possible. Let's see if just some transparent green, some of the sepia color here, the dark golden brown, a couple of lighter colors here. Hopefully we can just get it done with that. And this is a blister pack right here. Nothing fancy. What we're going to do is I'm going to turn down the brightness just a touch. Now, I got to say, it was pretty darn easy getting these bits off of here. That was pretty nice. It could be the size of the foliage, but yeah, it was really easy to, and even this, I was surprised how easy it was. Now, I'll show you how we basically just kind of flexed it like that, and you see how the plant's already starting to pop out of there. And I just wanted to remove this stuff so that I could try and get things painted here. So first, I'm looking to get a darker green here. but one that also has a little bit of yellow to it. And I'm just gonna brush right over the top here. I know the paper might curl a bit, so I'm gonna try not to get too much paint on the paper, but it's a nice, rich, deep green there. And we can do more with that as well. Just wanted to use the Pro Acryls because we know they're pretty rugged, they stick pretty well, they cover pretty well. There. So let's hit some of our other foliage. And this is just water. Just very simple. See that sepia right there? Think of it as green liner. If you're thinking Reaper clears and liners, think of it as the sepia liner and the green liner paint. For the most part, that's what we're using here. Now we'll see what happens with this wrap. That's mostly going to be chopped down because, well, these things can't be quite so tall. Just because of where they're going. If this was maybe a large creature or something like that, perhaps I could make them bigger. We do want to try and get some kind of color variation in this, and I also will have to paint the other side. Do I do that on camera here? I don't know. That could be a bunch of extra time to essentially repeat what we're doing here, so I may not do that. It also might be a little bit too clumsy, but we shall see. Now this one already kind of popped off a bit. However, well, you can see I can even change the color here. Let's make this one maybe a little more on the yellow side, a little more tan. So the other ones have a little bit more of the bluish green. That would be, yeah, see, that's more of an olive green almost there. And right now I'm using the side of the brush, and that lets me get a nice wide brush stroke here. So I'm going to go back to these guys, and I'm going to make sure I keep a little bit of the sepia color in that. It just keeps it from getting too, I don't want it to get too much of a turquoise color, I guess, is what we're looking at here now. You would have your stem here, like so. And I think what we'll do is we'll work a little bit of an arc like this. Oh, good. I think you can see that. I made the palette camera a little bit bigger so you can maybe see what we're doing. I wasn't going to break out a whole nother wet palette thing just for this, because we're not, as much as I want to get some reasonable painting on these guys, doesn't have to be absolute perfection. Let's get a bit lighter here. So and we're also gonna have to shape these leaves, so that's another thing. And my first thought on trying to shape these guys is actually to use some of the triangular sponges, but some of these makeup sponges, because they're soft enough, they have some give, but I think they'll have enough resistance, if that's the right word, that we should be able to give these a bit of a curve. A little bit of a curve. I was hoping with these big old broadleaf things like this that I might even be able to do basically some blood effects collecting on them. Whether that happens or not sure. But it's always worth trying to find out. And you will never find out unless you try it. So that's why we're testing this here. See just what's possible. And what I'm going to potentially do is, I can always do some glazes over the top of this. I might maybe grab some of the transparent brown, and then I can do some even darker glazes into this. Like I said, I haven't ever really painted this type of foliage before at all, so it's all new and different. And I just might grab some kind of it might even be a dark blue black or something like that, something dark that I can mix into the transparent green and make it a little bit just that much lighter, or make my darks that much darker. I'm going to push this off of here. Now it all depends. Now maybe this, maybe that's bright enough. So let's take our lighter color here and then branch off some veins here. And that might just be light enough. Now the trick will be not so much getting the whole overall leaf to just sort of have a bit of a curve to it. The challenge is going to be trying to get some kind of curve in the individual leaves. I don't know if that will be possible or not. It may or may not be. As always, we're going to find out one way or another. We'll see what happens. Again, doing my couple of these guys here. Let's see. First, get rid of the piece of vellum that's stuck in the brush, and I'm going to try a few. Yeah. And then sort of branch that out a little bit. No pun intended, ironically. Didn't actually mean to throw out a pun there. Sometimes it just happens. I probably should have just looked up some reference pictures or so before I did this, but since it is, as much as we like to add some realism, it is a chaos world, right? We're just living in it, so that's why I'm not going to get too upset if maybe these aren't super realistic. I mean, I think with this combined with the other plants should give us it's really more about creating these miniature dioramas that we talk about all the time. And yeah, see that nice little point on this is I was using this for oil painting not long ago. And by not long ago, I mean like within the last 36 hours or so. So that means you can definitely clean off these brushes and still be able to use them for other things besides oils. So this is a little bit of bonus myth busting going on, because I've heard that. Wow, once you use the brush for oils, can't use it for acrylics ever again. Well, I don't know. I think we're using this brush that's been tainted by the oils pretty effectively. And if I sound ever increasingly hostile to the myth folks there, the folks just kind of continuing on with the urban legends about oils that are all absolutely false, I'm going to have less and less mercy on them. So that's just how it's going to be, because I just get more and more and more frustrated hearing all these things about oils that, well, they're definitely not true, because, well, you've seen them in action. And as always, those are spread by folks that have never used them and just heard something on the internet, because everything on the internet is most definitely true. So now these guys here, I'm going to see what I can do with them and not try to do any supports. We are not going to have plants this tall. I'm just kind of slapping my paint on here. Probably going to cut them off somewhere around there. Now, back in the days of my lizardman army and other such jungle related things, I used aquarium plants, which had some use, some effectiveness. Sort of. You could actually take there was the Vallejo. It was like a sepia wash and a green wash. I used to really like those. I haven't used those in a really long time. I could actually basically wash those over the straight up aquarium plant. So it was still green, but I could actually glaze over that aquarium plant and it would just tint the thing. And all of a sudden the aquarium plant looked more like jungle foliage. It certainly lost all the shine and it lost most of the translucency of the typical plastic plant. And I was pretty darn amazed at what emerged from that. So that was very nifty. All right, so you can see just a bit of quick light around the edges, a little darker down in the interior. Now, am I going to use these straight up like this, where I have all 4 bits of this onto one base? Probably not. Probably I might combine these in different ways and just go with the individual stems. As much as I like to have the plant sort of flowering out of one place, because I have the bulletin board cork, and it's going to make it a whole lot easier for me to just sort of stab some holes into that cork as a nice little base for these things. I think that'll work. If it was, say, more like a Sculpey base or something that was harder, where I wasn't going to be able to get as many, basically drill holes in it, then that might change what I try to do as far as using this as a whole piece. I'm also, like I said, I want to try and use some of the other products, not just to augment how it looks texture-wise, color-wise. I also want to think about maybe giving a little bit of support, because remember, this is, I think, in some of the Dark Sword ones where I would use the basically something like a static grass tuft and stick some kind of another plant in there. So something like maybe something like one of these guys, or a flower tuft or something like that, some kind of taller piece of foliage. I would actually use the grass tufts themselves as sort of an anchor. So can I use maybe some of the Luke's APS foliage as an anchor? Now I'm saving some of the Luke's ground cover stuff because we've got a whole bunch of other basing and terrain tutorials coming up, and we can feature that there. But since I already started with the Woodland Scenics foliage, the flock there, I'm just going to continue that because I got 3 of these already with that on there, and I want to make sure that that continues. And that's going to do it for that now. Let's see if we can't get some lighter veins into these guys. There. And like I said, if I feel like I need some more of this sort of stuff happening, well, maybe I can just, once it's on the figure and I get to see what it really looks like, because it's one thing to see it here flat on a piece of green paper. It's going to look very different on away from the paper and with the also some painting on the back of it too, which I've got to remember to actually paint a little bit darker than this. That's why in some ways we're going a bit lighter here. Going a little bit lighter because this is supposed to be that, well, basically upper part of the leaf catching light, so best to make it later. And again, we've got a nice enough tip to make this work. Nice enough tip to make this work. Now, we're not going to try and glue these on in this, and we'll do it in the next one because we have to combine it with the other stuff. So it's gonna wait till our next segment. And what I'll start with is I'll just punch a couple of holes into the cork, and I'll put these guys in first, and then if I feel like they need a little bit, just some physical support, then I'll grab some of the ferns from the Luke's APS, and that's almost going to serve as an armature. Now, as far as armatures go, it's going to be a pretty floppy, fragile armature, but that it doesn't have to physically hold it like, say, a pin would in a miniature. All it needs to do is just give it the slightest bit of support, and just by virtue of being there, that's probably going to be enough to offer the support that I'm looking for. And this is another reason why I'm going with this many years. So there's 5 miniatures that need some foliage, right? And I potentially have 1, 2, 3, 11, 14, potentially 15. It all depends if I rip this thing and I feel like I can still use this bottom half. So that's already a couple of vellum plants per figure, plus the Luke's APS stuff. And now just a couple of, he's not even going to bother going past that because it is not going to be any longer than that. Where are we at here? I know it's a little bit harder to see because you got some shadows working and all that with these being a little bit curled. And to be honest, I'm kind of glad they curled a little bit. It makes my job a bit easier. But I'm going to take some of these off here just while you're still watching. I'm not going to paint the other sides of all of these, but I'm going to try one of these guys first. Get you off of there. There we go. Interesting. So I may just work with that natural where it's flipped. I'd like to have it be down. Maybe we'll try a little of each, but this is its natural state. It wants to curl like that. And what I was thinking about for to use as a curling iron is maybe something like this, and then we see something like that, and we'll just give it a little bit of a look at that. We just give it a little bit of a push. So don't mind me while I grab another one of these guys. See if I can't just get him stuck there well enough to get this painted. Keeping in mind that I want it to be darker and maybe even a bit, I was going to say cooler, but maybe I don't want to do that too much cooler on that. But I want to make sure we don't have any of that edge showing. So first off, boom. And then, well, I mean, you've kind of seen this part already. Maybe this is where I grab some of that darker color to do some wash. But like I said, how much of this will actually show, not sure. And it might even be better to just wait. I know it's not easy to paint the foliage once it's on there. Actually, it's kind of on the difficult side to paint it once it's on there. But let's just again go with just enough of that sepia to. Then we'll do some Some veins on this really quick. We'll lift it up and we'll see what we have as far as our little plant here. And there we go. Real quick like. All right. Let's get you pulled off here without destroying it. All right. Where's my... I'll grab my curling iron here, such as it is. Yeah, look at that. That's none too shabby. Okay, we wanted this to be curled up like that, nice and soft. But we're also looking to get a backwards curve. And there we go. That's something that water could collect in, little frogs, maybe some blood, who knows. Okay. So now I'm just going to rinse and repeat that process on all the other ones here to get the backs of those painted. And then we'll be right back and we're going to start gluing some of these on there. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. We're going to do that next. So you can see what we're left with here. Got some nifty painting on these. I'm just going to leave this darker on the back. I had to sort of spread these things out again a little bit. Now I'm going to trim my brightness up here a touch. Going to make the palette smaller and out of the way. And we've also got, again, this is some of that Luke's ABS ground cover here. And I'm just going to tear off some pieces and we'll just see what we're left with here. Because I keep thinking it's a big old tuft like a grass tuft, but it's not. It's really more these like sinews like this. So I'm gonna rip apart some more of this. Now this is more of a intact piece right here. I know it looks, I'm just kind of ripping apart foliage, but so that is potentially a little piece that I could use. We'll set that aside. I've got that other piece that we found. And I'm gonna look at my other chunk of it over here and see if there's anything that really strikes me like this piece here. So that one does. We're going to set that aside. We'll just set those aside. Again, look at even this. Don't necessarily have to throw this away. This could be other ground cover, other deadfall. Heck, we could even use it on this if we wanted to. But now I've got to figure, okay, foliage, where are you going to go? This is a prime candidate over here because we can shove this thing into the cork and now it ends up, remember we were always going to create a foreground, middle ground, background? What I'm going to do here, I want that to be too big, but now you could use some, it would be, where's my little, yeah, I'm going to see if I can't use a brush here too. Brush handle on this to get a little more curve. So what I'm thinking is that some of the, was it the foliage wire? It's green already, but it's really thin. It's not like a paper clip. And I've used that on some of the paper foliages, which is handy. But I'm going to see if I can do this without having to resort to any wire of any kind. So we're trying to give this a little bit of a fold here. And I might even see if I give this, look what we did there. So instead of it being flat, see how it has a little bit of a fold to it? And I could even press some texture into here, say with a pin or whatever, but I'm going to go to that extreme. So look at that. See how that already is a little more resistant there? Now before I start shoving some glue into this, let's see what happens to that. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Now, which way do I want this leaf to be pointing? Because we want to make sure that... See, I'm actually going to change the angle on this. Change the angle a bit. I'm going to grab another one of these that has more. There we go. Because I don't need that to be coming back with my pin every time. Aha. So that is better. And I have a choice of other types of it. Now I could just trying to reach this thing. So this could also be right here with it. But first I am gonna try and glue that thing in there. I just want it to be in place. So just bear with me here while I get a bit of glue in there. Now I could put a second leaf on it too. I don't know if I want to make that many of these leaves. Ooh, do I want to play with one of these ferns here? And I'm also going to give that a little bit of a bend. Boy, sometimes what I might have to actually do is cut off some of these guys. Now this is another place where something like that foliage pin. Oh, what the heck do they call them? Like a flower arrangement pins. There is a specific name for it. It's a gardening wire. It's literally called, I think, gardening wire, something along those lines. But what the heck? I'm gonna try and wherever that went. I'm gonna snip off these last two leaves. And actually just gonna bend this like so. See if that gives it a little bit of little more structure. Another pin. Aha. That is, I think that's what we wanted. Okay, so we've got another piece of foliage here. And now I'm gonna throw some of this here, and this is where I'm gonna say some of the Luke's APS foliage comes into play. And this is where I hope to get some support for my other foliage pieces. There we go. It adds a couple of different greens, and now where's my tweezers here? Nope, not gonna work. Let's try a different type of tweezers. Okay, so as I shove that in there, let's see how that's supporting this. This wants to lean over, but now there's actually a bit of foliage there that gives that some support. So before, let's move on to something else before we... Actually, I'm going to maybe tempted to throw another piece of some of the Luke's APS. Oh, wait. Never mind. We've got our tall foliage here. I'll make myself a bit of a bundle right here. So this is from Green Stuff World. Give that a slice. Gonna get myself some glue here. Put you right there. And follow that up with some more of this foliage type. If I can find myself a decent intact piece here, just bear with me. My pan. All right, so, and again, it can be frustrating sometimes with this. Sometimes it works, sometimes it just doesn't want to. And sometimes you just kind of have to look like you have clown fingers. But then sometimes you just get a piece to go in there where you want it to. And remember, we still have some more greenery yet to come. So that's looking sort of like a jungle there. And I could still drop some paint on that or whatever. So, okay, I think that is going to work for now. So there's that one. We'll set him aside and let's play with another one. Potentially something here. And once again, on the back here, I'm going to certainly, yeah, I want to have one of the larger leaves on this. So again, I'll give that a cut. Gonna take my brush and we'll give that a curve. Take this and essentially just kind of fold it on itself. It essentially creates a bit of a stem. Okay, which way did I have that pointed? Probably that way. And maybe we've got this. You know what? I'm going to try and do all of those together. And this is, I'm going to do a couple of points here. Okay, leaf number 1. And now for this, which is going to be a challenge, no doubt about it. Not quite sure. I'm just going to have to set this down because I don't have enough hands. Ooh, actually, I like it better over here. So never mind. We'll see if this works. It may not work. Hopefully it does. I think you can see what I'm trying to do here. Basically going to take my pin there and essentially plant this right here. All right, so there's some plants. Yeah, there's yep, there's definitely some plants there. And now I'm gonna take some of that foliage there. We're going to give this some more glue application. So this is what I'm noticing about these things here from the Luke's APS. They really don't hold together. They sort of kind of separate into their individual little components. Another thing to keep in mind as well, that they're going to soak up the glue. So that is another thing that I noticed. And that's going to look a little bit like a hat on our skull, but I'm just trying to get this literally planted right there. I may have to hold it for a second or two and then hope that my... All right, well, we'll just stick with that. But now we've got a couple different textures, even a couple different colors, and we haven't even added our other foliage yet. I'm going to do a little bit of the tall foliage here. Gonna make a... So there, that's a little bit rough, not wanting to let me make a hole there. I'm just gonna make a hole over there, fill that with the glue. And in goes some tall foliage. So we've got tons of different foliage happening here. I don't know. I hope that this looks somewhat interesting. I think it does. Have not really tried anything quite like this before. This is, like I said, this is new for me. I always try and do new things wherever possible. And my last big leaf is going to go over here. One more. So, well, maybe I'm just gonna... Okay, it wanted to bend this way. I'm gonna go that way with it. Give that a slice. Gonna give this a bend here. And I'm thinking we're gonna save the blood effect stuff for just a different video. I think that should be its own separate video. The original plan was to combine these together, but as I see this now, that's just too many different things all in one episode. Because I'd have to reintroduce the supplies and everything else. So I'm gonna just go with the Vellum Plants. And again, just trying to give that a backdrop, some kind of a setting. Now we've got these guys, and this is another area where I'm just going to have to sacrifice these last couple of leaves to get any kind of a stem. Time for another hole. Some glue. I'm going to get to bend this almost if I can. Sort of fold that on itself. Well, that's going to be tough, but I think I just did it. So you're not going to find this stuff. Where did that go? It could be a little bit clumsy for you at first trying to handle it. I will say that right now. Don't be too disappointed in yourself if foliage like flies out of your hand or just does things you really don't want it to do. Okay, now we're going to try and support that. I'm going to support it this time, I think, with some of the tall foliage, because that's really out there. So you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of cutting some of these things away that are by the stem. Now I've got a bit of a stem here. Here's my tall foliage, and I'm just hoping that this will go where I need it to and stay there. No guarantees. There's never a guarantee with this stuff. It sometimes has a mind of its own. And sometimes you just have to hold it there till the glue just takes hold of it. And I was exerting a fair amount of force there. That's why it was quite literally starting to come off of my little paint container. One more time, boom. So what that does is, as always, it hides that entry point there, but gives us, we got 3 different colors working real nice. And I'm thinking on here, if it's possible, big old batch of this. Now, we'll see if this works. I could use the white glue as well, but I'm going to give this a shot here. I'm going to basically bundle this stuff up, and I'm just going to stick it right here, hold it with my hand in place, and hope that enough of it sticks. I'm going to drizzle some more glue into that. I'm actually just going to push. Remember how we push on some of our flower tufts to spread those out? Literally just trying to spread this out a bit. Gonna get that chunk out of there. So another little tuft again. It's, boy, these guys, they're definitely looking like they're in a jungle. No doubt about it. We did want to punch another hole here. Now this is going to be a little bit tougher, so I'm going to grab an actual drill bit here, because this is not bulletin board cork, and there's a whole bunch of there. Really got ourselves a good point for that. I think this is the only one that had that, so I'm going to basically do something like this. I'm trying to keep this one intact. Good. So that one's still intact. Those 2 bits. And these sometimes want to get hooked on each other. So I got it like that. Some glue. And then once again, we try and get this stuck where we need it to. So, okay, we've got that placed in that hole. I'm tempted to almost glue that a little bit to the side, but we won't do that. What we're going to do is this. That's what I wanted to do. And just to make sure that kind of stays there, I'm going to throw a dot of glue in a couple of different places here. There. So this is, now it's going to be actually literally held onto the rocks with some glue. At least that's the plan. Just got to give that a couple seconds there. So now that's got itself some nice support. And here, Let's see how many. You know what? While I'll let that sit there, I don't want to use up all of my leaves now. I've been putting a lot of them back here. I'm going to see if I can't get one here on the front. Could be a bit of a challenge, but I'm going to try it anyway. So here's that other half of the leaf bundle. And I'm just going to grab a new thing of glue here. I'm not even going to bother fooling around with that one. And it's just I really wanted the cheap glue like this because it really seeps down into those holes that I'm digging. The other glue has a tendency, especially that gel glue you've seen me use, as much as I like it, more so for miniatures than for foliage. So see, it just kind of sinks way down into that crevice there. I'm going to grab my foliage, put that in there, grab a pin, and hopefully get that to actually get down into there without ripping. And much like we did with the other one, we'll kind of fold out this plant here. Like there. Just wanted to try to get it to stick to the rock as much as I can. I know it's not terribly interesting to watch, but okay. So there's another one. Now it's on the front of the miniature. And I've got one more of these guys. I'm just going to put this on the back then. So I've got a big old hole here. Come on. I'm going to grab this piece. We will snip off these last couple of bits here. Some glue first. And in you go. That's actually a little bit too long. And there we go. All right, so what I'm going to do is just support this here like you've seen me do with the other things. And what we'll do in our last segment is we'll get out some of that, some of the flock, and we'll arrange that to give it our final look. So there you go. We got ourselves some plants. So hopefully for our grand finale, we're going to try and use this from Mooks APS. You've seen me use this in a couple of different things before. Now, we are going to actually, it dries clear. I want to start with that, but see what I mixed in there? That was some of our sepia tone. So I'm thinking this will still have some hold, but it's basically glue with some color in it now. So I'm going to have some of that. And I'm also going to have some regular, which I'm actually just going to take my paint water here and send that down. There. So I'm going to do a couple of these glues. I might even just a little make that thinner. All right, and the idea is, so we've got our flock right here. Let's find, this guy here. Now, I don't necessarily want to cover up everything with green. That would be a mistake too, but you're going to see the thicker glue in that crevice there, and it's also got a little bit of a color. You see the thinner glue out here, so that basically the idea is that glue also gives that a little bit of extra hold. Now let's get these glues out of the way. We're going to dust our flock in place. And all of a sudden now we've got, see, it sort of hides that entry point a little bit. Move this off to the side here. We're going to grab some of our thinner glue because I don't want to cover up completely. I want to annihilate all of the rock there on the base. And see, I'm going to actually give that a little bit of a thicker glue right there. And again, we're going to dust this on here. And there you go. So we've got some, see, it even sets our skull in place. It makes it look like it's been there a while. And that's really part of the idea here, is make it look like it's actually been there a while. And there's another place where I'm going to use some of that thicker glue. And really pile that up here because it's going to do a couple things. It'll hold the flock in place, but it also is now going to give this some extra hold. So it's almost like we're sort of helping out the root system a bit, preventing erosion. So again, and the idea is that it gives it a little bit of color as well. So we're really starting to progress here, I think, with our little bit of grassy foliage. This is why I've got the thin down version here. I used to always really clump this stuff on, and then I realized, no, I should maybe be a little more sparing with it. So, look at that. Look at that skull just sitting right there in the grass like it's been there. But see his foot still touching some bare rock. I might be so inclined as to take, again, that's the thinner stuff. Remember we were doing the piece of terrain, and that's where I realized you could thin this stuff down like crazy and that it would still actually hold. So look at that. See a little bit of mossy growth on the rock. I'm just going to leave that hang out there. I'm not going to cover up all of the rock. I'll leave some of it out there. Okay, we've got this guy here, and we are going to actually grab my thicker glue that's got a bit of color to it. As before, we are going to really focus on basically the root system of this plant. It's going to give it extra hold. We'll give it some extra hold, and then hopefully look good too, because that's always handy. I think this also, when you do this, it sort of enhances the natural shape and look of the bulletin board cork as it pertains to, well, being rocks. There, look at that. You see it now? That looks like it's really anchored there instead of just like loosely flying around, whatever. So you have to sort of get past that. I know it's difficult. It can be even for me. I sort of forget. I see that again, like, wow, that doesn't look as neat there as I actually thought it was going to. But it's just like, hey, who would have thought that flocking is just like chess? You have to think moves ahead. Apparently it is. You got to think moves ahead. Now, I also have to think there's going to be some blood over here. So maybe, I don't know. You know what? For the heck of it, let's get some of the flock over here, and then later when I film the episode where I add the blood, which will not be terribly long unless I find other miniatures to do that with as well. Look at that. Look at that. It's a nice little jungle setting there, and you can bet I'm going to do that over here. Very excited about this actually, because I was trying to find some decent use for that, for this Luke's APS stuff, aside from maybe just adding it to some trees. And I think we've got something going here. So again, we're gonna just really go with the thicker glue and then kind of expand that out with the thinner glue. But it has a little bit of color to it, so I think once it dries, it might give us just that extra little touch of texture. Oh yeah, look at that now. Now you also know why I didn't spend a whole lot of time painting the base, because hey, we got effects. And oh yeah, my goodness. I apologize for just kind of being quite so excited. I've been itching to see this for months, actually. Once I saw these different products, and I was waiting on some of the products to get here, and then there was the Adepticon thing. So there's been intrusions, to say the least, to best laid plans all the time, just kind of get nuked. Now here, I'm gonna almost make it like a bit of a terrace there, so we're gonna move that off to the side, and now, bang. There's going to be more jungle basing. I've got some commission figures that, well, it's semi-jungle. It's kind of an Angkor Wat type of a theme. So we'll be combining this with actually maybe sculpting some bases. I think you'll enjoy that. I think it's going to be kind of different for you. And it's a whole bunch of different shapes. There's some oval bases for some flying sort of pterodactyl type deals. And it's not GW stuff. It's actually another, it's a European company. I don't really remember the name. I'll get that for you when the time comes. But this rock, I'm going to actually let that get a little bit more covered. But see, having that thin down glue really helps it stick. All right, where am I at here? I'm glad I also let the super glue have a chance to dry, because there's a chance that I would also have flock now stuck to all my foliage, and we wouldn't want that. So look at that, and yet another texture, color, just so many wonderful differences. Now this one's gonna take definitely a combination. I'm glad I have these two different glues. So again, we're gonna go in here with the thicker glue that has more paint in it, and this does a couple of different things. It holds our plants, our vellum in place, while at the same time getting our grass to go where we need it to. And now I've got my thinner glue. We'll just sort of, look at that. That is going to create such a nice, yeah, okay. These off to the side. Make sure that this gets down in there. And you kind of have to hold it at a weird angle just to make sure it gets there. Yeah, I could add some leaves to this too, just like leaf, but look at that. So now those leaves, instead of looking like they just kind of magically grew out of a rock, out of nowhere, now they look like they have some basis in why they should be there. Yes, it's fantasy. Yes, we're really fudging the truth on this, but if you give it some basis, like at the slightest basis in reality, I think people will. It looks more convincing. I think it looks convincing enough. I'm going to get some more of my thicker glue, most definitely in here. Even my skulls, I had to think, yeah, how can I get those to really look like they are anchored here? And that's what this does. All right, again, I'm off to my thinner glue because I really want that to get down in here. Off to the side. Hold this at hopefully enough of an angle. I did actually get a little bit of my glue on that there as I was brushing this on, but no big deal. Not a huge tragedy. Ideally, you just let this stuff sit on there for a while and really attach itself, but as always, we kind of have to push the envelope here a little bit and sort of, I don't want to say rush things, but do them in a timely manner. Expedite the process, or expedite the process. That's it. We're expediting the process. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go with my thinner glue here. Let that soak in. That get down in by my skull right there and get rid of some of the extra. Almost there. I see there's one little there. Yeah, I could even get some of the grass on the skull itself. Okay, a little bit, just a bit more. Good enough. Good enough. Oh my goodness. Now, last one. Last one here. And this one has a lot of stuff that needs to be solidified. Also has a wide open space up there. So with the last of our glue, we're going to start again with the thicker glue down in here. So excited by this. Well, because there's other things that I've wanted to try that are sort of similar to this, and I would hope that this would work at least well enough. Now here's another thing too. So I can even put a little glue on there, and some of my flock is going to stick to that. Here, look at what the thinner glue does. It's almost like a glue wash. Now I know I've seen, and you can go to the Luke's APS, some of his YouTube videos. He's got a lot of neat ones there. Very helpful. I think I saw him thinning it down with like a isopropyl alcohol, like the 70% stuff, not the real strong kind that you use, say, for resin printing and all that. But I think he would thin it down with that because he would try and get it to go down in between all of his gravel and such that he would use on his dioramas. I think that's what gave me the idea to thin down some of that glue, since it's, well, the same glue. Oh, look at that. Now our skull's really, this is why we didn't want it to be all bleached, right? Because it's going to look like now they're just part of that jungle floor. All right, with the last of my thicker glue here. Once again, we're going to anchor these guys. The combination of the thinner, look at how that just kind of wraps around his foot there. Not too much of a big old glob. I'm going to use a bit more of this so it really gets down into the crevices there. Not so much that it's going to necessarily hold all of this flock in one area, but that actually helps the plants there to stay where they are, keep them rooted where they're at. And look at, we got multiple terraces now, just like we were hoping. We have our foliage really set into place. And with last little bit of my thin glue here, because we got this wide open space on the top of this. Don't want to cover all of it, but I'm even going to use a bit of my thicker glue right there. And I do believe we are good to go. Yes. That, to me, works. Yeah, I could put some flowers on here. There's other things that I could do. But for now, I'm going to call this fini. And I'm gonna have a try and have a gallery here of these pictures for you, so you get a nice sense of what these look like. But I do have to wait for all this stuff to dry. We'll show you a couple more here. And as I show you these, I want to say thanks for supporting this basing pledge level. It means a lot because I can experiment with stuff like this. Otherwise, doesn't happen. And thanks, I know in the last Army Painter video that I just uploaded, I didn't get a chance to do my usual round of thank yous, but I will certainly try to keep you entertained. This to me is exciting. Look at that foreground here, middle ground is the figure, and background is our plants. We have created depth here. Now, something like this, maybe I paint some more there because it's just kind of sticking out. So we might do that. If you see that looking different in the photographs, that's what happened there. And got one other that's hiding here in the corner there. And yeah, this, I'm really glad that I gave this a test. I just didn't know how it was going to work. Yeah, I might add some more darks in there, whatever. But again, I appreciate all of your support. It means so much. Now I'll keep trying to do, well, there's water effects and stuff coming because we're going to be using these on our splintered fang. Imagine what that is going to look like on here because these look kind of barren right now, right? Not so much once we do this. So thanks again, guys, and I'll catch you on the next episode.